What do you mean? What do you mean when you say people are scared of diagnosis?
They feel like that's going to limit them. So, for example, the family that comes in here and says, I want to know what's going on with my child, but they don't want a diagnosis. They think they're going to end up in a special education classroom. They think they're going to end up on medicine. They think that they're not going to get into college. Like the big fear. I need a diagnosis so I can get paid. I say that to families all the time. I need it on a treatment plan. Just like when you go to the doctor and you walk in that doctor's office and you're like, oh my God, it's cold. Go, there's a diagnostic code for that cold. And that doctor's going to put that on that bill so they can get paid. That's what I need the diagnosis for on the bigger scale. On the individual child scale, what I tell families, the diagnosis guides treatment. If I say this kid has ADHD and really it's not, it's autism. It is two different ways that the world's going to see this child, ADHD versus autism. The classroom teachers, ADHD versus autism. They're two different treatment paths. It's important to know what we're treating because it guides all the steps. Therapy is a science. It's an evidence-based practice. Even people who don't agree with the DSM. If you break down the DSM, now we're in the 5th edition, every diagnosis and symptom has papers and papers and when I say papers, research to support why that's a symptom. And there's a whole nother set of books that says why that one symptom should be there. So I tell people we are a science. The challenge with that is because we are a science, then we have a diagnosis that has particular criteria and symptoms. What I would say to folks is do not accept a diagnosis if they haven't done their assessment and their due diligence. That is what I would tell
So
families.
Is that time? How do you know if your therapist or the person that's doing the assessment is doing it properly? What questions should they ask?
An assessment form.
Okay.
We actually have tools. So for example, there's a depression inventory. There is an ADHD screening. I can have students fill out a GARS if I'm looking to see if there's autism there. We have tools. So now pediatricians and medical providers are doing depression screenings, right? They ask you PHQ-9, they have a depression screening. There's actual questions and assessment tools to get to that diagnosis. If you walk into someone's office and let's say within 4 to 5 sessions, they've never handed you an assessment to actually assess your mental health, then they're not coming up with the right diagnosis. We should be using some type of assessment tool. That is where our practice and field has taken us. That we should be using some assessment tool to guide treatment.
Okay, keep going. No. We're going to keep going. I think that
I thought you get me on certain topics. I didn't talk my stuff now. Listen.
So
argue on that.
Let's because
that's when I have an issue with my colleagues in this space. We have ethical guidelines that we should be using. We have even, like I say, we're in the state of New Jersey. There are legal guidelines as to how I should practice. So it's not just talk therapy and I do what I want. There's actual regulations that say how this should look when people come to your office. Your licenses should be displayed. You should be able to.
What I was going to ask you. That's just like, so my son struggled in school, period. All the way 3rd grade, still writing his letter backwards, couldn't read, like struggle, everything. Triggered me because it was triggering my wounds. And it was like, this is happening all over again. I'm trusting the school system. I'm trusting that they will find the answers. I'll give you this story. My son was in this was like kindergarten, daycare, some kind of program. And every day, oh, your son is being bad. He's just being bad. And he's being bad. And I'm bringing him home. Stop. What are you doing? You're being bad. You're being bad. Light bulb just went off. What's bad? Right. So I literally went there and I'm like, I sat down with everybody, his teachers. I said, okay, what is he doing? He just won't stop talking. And I said, okay, that's one class. What is he doing? He just won't stop talking. They all said it. Okay, let me go ask another teacher. He just won't stop talking. Every day I'm telling him, stop being bad, stop being bad, stop being bad. I'm telling him to stop talking. Right? Hindsight. This is the kid in Forbes. It's the most motivational kid in America. Namibia, Dubai, Tanzania, traveling the world for talking.
And listen, a strength. And had it been a young girl, it would have been handled differently. So gender and education, there is disproportionality with school discipline when it comes to boys, when it comes to students with disabilities, students of color. Most of our educators are female, even at the elementary level. Boy energy shows up different. Same story. I got a letter. My son was in a small Christian school, and then we moved him to a public school, second grade. Third day of second grade, I get a letter from the vice principal that if your son continues to misbehave, he will get suspended. So I went in for a meeting because I'm that parent. I'm like, okay, help me to understand. The misbehaving, he was crying. So I said to them, he has anxiety. He misses his mom. If this was a little girl, would she get a letter for being disruptive for crying? And they didn't have any words for me. And I said to them in that moment, I said, what you have to understand is gender is playing a role here in the color of his skin. He is not misbehaving. He is dealing with a transition. He's never been in a big school. He came from a little private school. This is huge. This is overwhelming. This is a lot. But what educators don't look at is the acting out child of color. Is it anxiety versus bad behavior? Is it maybe ADHD and focus versus bad behavior? We are oftentimes seen as disruptive, even though we have the same behavior of children that are of other nationalities and races.
We tapping into something.
Oh yeah, I could talk on this forever.
Because I want to go here too. So the reason I brought up this point, because you said it's guidelines. So even my perspective on, like, once my son started traveling and we started to go to schools around the world, we started to learn. I studied curriculum. I homeschooled. I took my son out at 4th grade. Mind you, I struggled my whole life. This. Even like my baby will tell you, my son is in honor society, academic scholarships, and I still be like, who taught that boy? Like, it's still that imposter syndrome of like, he was homeschooled from 4th grade all the way to high school. Right. So it's like, as I'm homeschooling, because I withdraw from the state, everything, I was just freestyling. But okay, I didn't have the tools, the background to be a teacher, but I studied learning styles. I learned that it was 5 different styles and things I never knew. Right. But my son's eyes, his fear, me feeling like, man, the same thing is happening over again. I literally was in the same classroom. This was Cleveland Street School in Orange, New Jersey. So it's the same school that I went to the foster home from. God bless me. Pray for my younger self, right? I hit my principal with a chain. I see you laughing over there on the side. So she gonna make me look like I'm laughing, or like one of the worst parts of the story. So y'all gotta like excuse. But seriously, like,
listen.
That little boy, Junior, right? Junior was going through so much. Again, being molested on my way to school, and we didn't like all the way in this episode touch on my pain, but because my mother used to beat me, whip me, hit me, and the societal norms of, even when we talk about pain, trauma, so vulnerability in my house was acting out, and because my mother was parenting me the way that she was parented. So my mother used to hit me, oh, stop acting like a little girl. So, neurologically, this is the norm. And I didn't understand that. Like, I'm literally wiring myself to not cry. That's why as a grown man, I had to learn how to cry all over again. That's why I value crying now, because it's like, oh, I know how to do this. Wow, this is amazing. Look at this. This is a tear. Save it. Like, I have tears come out sometimes, and it's like, oh, this is a senior citizen. This tear was supposed to come out. This tear was supposed to come out when I was 5. Look at it. Oh, look at.
And we need to do that. We need to teach our boys that it's okay to cry. 100%.
Grown men too.
You grown men too.
I got friends and men that I counsel, and like the fact that I learned and had to learn, because I so many traumatic events in my life took place where I, like, that's the badge of honor. Like, when you're growing up in the urban environment, oh, I'm tough. I don't deal with feelings and losing my friends dying in front of me. And I didn't know how to care. I didn't know how to cry. We literally like walking in the blood. You know what I'm saying? And it's trauma on top of trauma on top of trauma on top of trauma. So to go back into, like, when I started to talk to teachers, And I'm listening to myself, listen to this content. That's the thing about content creators.
Yeah.
I hate when I skip stuff that I was on and I leave.
Okay, go back.
I leave people on cliffhangers. So I'm trying to hear. I'm trying to hear the
cliffhanger. School
cliffhanger.
and education are boys all day. I'm just saying.
I'm trying to hear the cliffhangers that I left people on. Like
so I'll tell you, my first in-school workshop professional development that I was asked to do was because back in that Christian school, my son, I would walk in, I would drop him off, I would walk back out. He beat me to my car. He hated school. He'd run out, right? He hates school. And the teacher had said, again, he was crying, he was having a hard time. And I finally said to them, I said, well, let's talk a little bit about some of the things he's struggling with, right? And so I sat with my son and I went through.
I know they was tired of you
coming I'm that parent when I come in and I try to not be the therapist.
No, you being a doctor, a therapist, so they looking at you like, oh, here's this lady. Like they knew when you was coming. Like,
oh yeah, well, but this is what happened, and it was a good thing though. Yeah. So I said to the teacher, I sat with him. He gave me, and this is the thing. We don't ask our children enough. We yell at them for what's going wrong, right? But it was a moment of clarity that said, ask him what's difficult about writing. He was crying when it was time to write. And I said, well, what's hard about writing for you? What's difficult? In his little first, second grade language, he's telling me my hand hurts when I write.
That same thing.
I had never thought of
that same
his hand.
Thing. Oh my God.
Took him to an OT specialist. Again, and sure enough, and I didn't tell her what was going on. I just said, we're here to have this hand evaluated. And she had him do exercise. Within 2 minutes, she turned to me and said, does his hand hurt when he writes? One of the things our boys, remember when we were younger, we did mazes, we did puzzles, we did things with our hands. Because the kids internet, nowadays, it's 2D learning. We're not even coloring to build the muscles in our hands. So a lot of these boys, and I'm just saying our boys, when they say my hand hurts from writing, it's not that they're lazy. It's not that they don't want to do it. There really could be a physiological reason as to why it hurts when they write.
Even my son, that was a part of being bad. Like, and when you're a parent, you learning and unlearning. Yep. I'm like, stop writing like that. You ain't. But literally, his teacher was like, he's developing the muscle.
Yes.
To write.
Yes.
But again, to go back to those cliffhangers and thank you, right? Thank you for sharing. Hopefully they value the food in this build. My son was triggering me so much because I was showing up as the parent that I prayed for. And instead of letting the system tell me what my son was and who my son was, I was asking questions, but at the same time, it was triggering me. And again, imagine being in the same building that you got sent to the foster home from. And this is all the movie. This is all I'm talking before they make this movie of my son's life, my life. But literally, I'm going back in this same class that y'all are handcuffed, a little kid. But I hit the principal with a chain. I literally remember the marks on his face. God bless him, his family. Would you beat yourself if you could go back and see yourself? like boy, sit down. But I would understand what I was going through. Like, but I wonder if I would have let me talk to me. But I was again being molested, foster home. Literally, I went to school the whole day. And we jumping around so many conversations, but it's like I'm psychoanalyzing myself.
Right in the moment.
I got to see how they look on the camera because I got to stop doing that for the people, and I got to let myself go into content, man. Because I guess sometimes the cliffhanger is good too, but this is like 3 brains when you like compartmentalize myself. So let me just go into the story. So the fact that I was being triggered was my momentum, my motivation to say, I'm going to show up as a parent.
Yeah.
And I am going to, like, whether we want to say generational curses, I am going to, like I would say, I raised my son like I was trying to save myself.
Save yourself, yeah.
So, again, intimidation, man, this little kid looking at me, please get me homeschool. And the funny thing about my mother, this was before the pandemic. Like, my mother never heard of homeschool.
Yeah.
She said, they're going to lock you up. Like she
Right.
she think I'm gonna be locked
All the
up.
people been doing it for centuries,
Yeah,
right?
like she don't know nothing about it. She looked me
Right.
dead in my eye. They gonna lock you up. They
Yeah.
gonna get you. You taking
Yeah.
that boy out of school. That's all she knew, that I was
Yeah.
taking him out of school and I'm gonna get locked up. No, but I'm like this. I was scared. I was scared. I was worried. But my son, he like, please, daddy. And I didn't know what I was doing. I went to the board of education, and but that first year to take them off the cliff of the cliffhanger, my son was reading on a 7th grade level. He was in and out the library. My son didn't like reading. What I did was I took it from reading to just engagement. He ain't like reading, but he liked Superman. He liked Batman.
That's it.
Right? So the books he had to read, yeah, you see this page. You can't get to the story if you don't learn these words. So he wasn't reading. He was engaging and connecting to something he loved. He loved the characters. And so now he was excited. Let's go. And then that twisted. So once he got connected to reading and books, because he had no connection, and I learned that he was a visual learner, right? So I learned his style of learning. It wasn't just about put him in a class, and because it was no way that I can cultivate and grow his ability, his strength. And that's what turned into that confident young man that could talk in front of 20,000 people. And that it was a domino effect of motivation. To like, my son still scared me to this day. Like I said, he be talking his college stuff, and even school. Like I said, he went into high school, even now, because he could have had 2 more years left when he went to high school. He wanted to do the whole 4 years. He said, "No, don't do anything. I don't care about the credits. I want to just go to high school." Right. So even this year, he was supposed to have just 2 classes. He made them put a whole day on it. Even if like the boy come home 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, I said, "Oh, he's a different human." Like
he needs it.
I was cutting class, jumping out of school, running out of school, and that's the part of me as a parent. We don't like to be vulnerable, and we don't like to be the student. I say he is teaching me.
Teaching you. Yeah.
I had a whole. I'm like, school is this and this. I was preparing him for war. Every day he was going to school, mind you, he's in a different environment, different space. And I'm literally learning now. Like, so with him going to college and school, he's out of my world, out of my realm. And I told him a while ago, I said, hey man, like it may be a time where you have to, 2 things. I said, you're not a father. This wasn't what I told him. I came to this realization with myself. You're not a father till you let your son get punched in the face. Right. And what I mean by that is like, as a father and as a parent, oh, I'll die for you. Like, right. But as parents, we have to live for our kids. So the fact that it's like, oh, I love my son so much, so a little kid, he may get beat up. It's lessons in the punch. Yeah. It's lessons in the fall off the bike, the swing, and even in life. Like, if we could interrupt our own evolution, we would. Right. I grew up without a father. But look at what it developed. That became my motivation. But if I could go back and like, no, put my father was probably the wrong example. He was probably removed. It wasn't the fact that he wasn't there. It was the fact that he wasn't supposed to be there. Right. So the bigger picture, when we talk about God, the creator, like I always say, don't judge the picture while the creator's still painting. Right. But we like, oh no, we want to rescue. No, like let him fall, let him hit his head, let him. My journey taught me so much, and I'm so grateful. Right. So even with my moms, and the reason that like people on the outside didn't understand it, even looking at my mother in the casket, I said, thank you. Yeah. Right. And not that she's in the casket, but thank you for the journey. Thank you for 68 years. And this is what I said, even speaking at my mother's funeral. I said, my mother funny, right? She did things like this. Like, I wonder if my mother loved me. She'll point. Like, what is she talking about? Like point to the lights. Like, right? But it's like,
that's how we show love.
Do you love me? You see these lights on, you see the food in the refrigerator, like that food ain't just get there, like you know what I'm saying? But it's like, so that love, and it's like the fact that the strength, the wisdom, the knowledge, because that was the hardest hit in the world, the hit that my mother transitioned. The first time my mother told me she loved me, she said she was doing it because she was hitting me. I'm doing this because I love you. And like, this don't make no sense. This is stupid. What are you talking about? You hitting me because you love me? And it's like, she was preparing me for the hardest hit. And that hit was your mother transition.
Yeah.
Right. Like, she looking up because she know the sound of my about to cry.
Well, I was just, I'm going to take you back to something you
That's
said.
beautiful to come when your partner know the sound and you're about to cry. She's like, he about to cry. Like,
listen, that's okay too. Listen.
Yeah.
But you hit something that we parent with the knowledge that we have and what was shown to us. And I think we have to give ourselves grace as parents, because as much as we say there's books out here, I've authored one as well, but there is no guidebook to doing this, right? And even with your son, to say, you saw what you went through and you said, it's not going to happen again. That's a true parent, right? Right. We can't always protect them from everything, but to say, why would I allow my child to go through the same experience? I know how it turned out. And that's where I think sometimes we have to jump in sooner with our kids.
I struggle with that. I struggle with that because you ever did something that you really couldn't do, but you were so afraid that you did it? Let me break it down, right? Yeah. Dog chasing you. You like, you jump over a 6 foot gate.
Hey, listen, that adrenaline hit.
you like, you get over that gate. You still running and you get home. Now it's no dog. You like, nah, I'm walking around this gate. I can't, right? So it's like the survival mode that kicked in, the fear that kicked in, the anxiety that kicked in, to protect my son, and it's like, because sometimes I look at myself, and even in this field of like I truly value psychology. I truly value mental health, and I think about it like, man, should I go to school, right? But it's like, it's no dog chasing me. It's like, I'm not scared enough. I'm not scared. It's like, because fear is a professor. Like, it teaches you so much. And most of my life has been like dominated in fear. And I learned so much through fear and anxiety and trauma that that's my struggle sometimes. That is like, did I really do that? So even when I look at my son, and I'm like, wow, I'm like, oh yeah. I'm like, I don't know if I did that.
And here's, I'm going to circle back to that because it's interesting. So what you learned through experience with your son, right? The visual learning. Statistics are saying we won't have male students in college probably in the next 30, 40 years because of how we're doing education. Boys and gender don't learn the way that we're doing education. Same experience. My son didn't want to read, didn't want to pick up the book. Same thing. Went and got the race car books, the superhero books, the ones that engage. Then take it a step further. Books on tape. Put headphones on. Now it's 3D. He can listen to it. He can flip the pages. Now he's really into the story, because now that's what's different in education. Boys need to learn 3D. This is what we're losing. And this is why we're losing our sons when it comes to educating them and them being in schools.